Alright, so I'm going to be reading from the Kybalion, hermetic philosophy, and giving some commentary as we go through. I'll be reading what's considered chapter 4, the All. And before I begin, I guess I'll give a little background on the Kybalion. The Kybalion began as a verbal set of principles, a verbal oral history that was passed down among the hermetists. It's only recent times that we've put it on paper, so some of the language that you'll see or hear within it stems from that, the Kybalion originally just being memorized verbatim history that was passed down. And where it started was with Hermes Trismegistus, or Thoth as he's more popularly known. He's talked about, or Enoch, he's talked about in the Bible. He's talked about in a lot of different religious texts, because the Bible is derived from a lot of older texts. He's the writer of the Emerald Tablets, which all of these principles are derived from. In the Emerald Tablet, Thoth claims responsibility for the creation of the pyramids. And there's plenty of videos all over the internet that goes deep into the mystery around Thoth, as well as how it connects to other extraterrestrial influence that we may have had in our evolution, or that source may have used to get us to where we are today. Does not change the fact that these principles exist, and from the moment that you hear them, truth just can't be denied. We want to understand these principles as much as we can so that we can use them to elevate not only ourselves but the people around us. And the only way that we do that is by being open to all sources of information. So please, as you're listening to this, try to remain as judgment-free as possible. Let's have some fun. Alright, the All. Under and back of the universe of time, space, and change is ever to be found the substantial reality, the fundamental truth, the Kybalion. Substance means that which underlies all outward manifestations, the essence, the essential reality, the thing in itself. Essentially, substantial means actually existing, being the essential element, being real. Reality means the state of being real, true, enduring, valid, fixed, permanent, actual. Under and behind all outward appearances or manifestations, there must always be a substantial reality. This is the law. Man, considering the universe, of which he is a unit, sees nothing but change in matter, forces, and mental states. And I want to pause here because from the beginning, you can see that in an indirect manner, the writers of the Kybalion, credited as 3 initiates, who study or understudies under Hermetists, masters, if you will, they're using their language to address your thinking. And from the beginning, you see that they're trying, the language is making an attempt to reduce all that is to matter, forces, and mental states. And it's very key because we think a lot of thoughts. And in trying to gain control over your thoughts so that you can create your reality, if you have a blueprint or a framework to understand or visualize the universe through, it makes it easier for you to tame some of the madness when you can think of the universe in terms of matter. And even matter is a word that doesn't mean much because we understand that under a microscope everything is moving and vibrating. So forces, you understand that there's forces of nature, you understand that there's forces of just thought, you understand that there are effects that stem from causes and mental states. You understand that everyone is occupying some form of a mental state. Whether it be good or bad, we can assign judgment to it. We cannot. For our purposes, we're not. We're going to call them all states. Let's continue. He sees that nothing really is, and that everything is becoming and changing. Nothing stands still. Everything is being born, growing, dying. The very instant a thing reaches its height, it begins to decline. The law of rhythm is in constant operation. There is no reality, enduring quality, fixity, or substantiality in anything. Nothing is permanent but change. He sees all things evolving from other things and resolving into other things, constant action and reaction, inflow and outflow, building up and tearing down, creation and destruction, birth, growth, and death. Nothing endures but change. And if he be a thinking man, he realizes that all these changing things must be but outward appearances or manifestations of some underlying power, substantial reality. All thinkers in all lands and in all times have assumed the necessity for postulating the existence of this substantial reality. All philosophies worthy of the name have been based upon this thought. Men have given to this substantial reality many names. Some have called it by the term of deity, under many titles. Others have called it the infinite or eternal energy. Others have tried to call it matter, but all have acknowledged its existence. It is self-evident. It needs no argument. In these lessons, we have followed the example of some of the world's greatest thinkers, both ancient and modern. The hermetic masters have called this underlying power, this substantial reality, by the hermetic name of the All, which term we consider the most comprehensive of the many terms applied by man to that which transcends names and terms. We accept and teach the view of the great hermetic thinkers of all times, as well as of those illumined souls who have reached higher planes of being, both of whom assert that the inner nature of the All is unknowable. This must be so, for not but the All itself can comprehend its own nature and being. So I know I said a lot there. Essentially, what we're addressing here is the fact that all philosophies attempt to ascribe an explanation to the fundamental reality underlying all of the things that we see. So we can put something under a microscope and we can look at the atoms and see that they're vibrating. We can put together an entire human body, all of the parts that make it up. We know all of the chemicals and where they go. But even that doesn't give us the clues about how this life becomes present and expresses itself. When we look at matter and we look at life and our awareness, we understand that there's planes of existence. We understand that there's different, that what we see is not all that there is. We know from the double slit experience or experiment that looking at atoms causes them to collapse into a form that reflects what you would want to see. So when trying to explain the substantial reality, any time that we attempt to quantify the all, we're collapsing atoms to reflect what we want to see. And it doesn't matter what perspective we're approaching that from. whether it be any particular religion or any philosophy or any school of thinking. So we're pulling ourselves back from that and taking an objective view at it all. The Hermeticists believe and teach that the all in itself is and must ever be unknowable. They regard all the theories, guesses, and speculations of the theologians and metaphysicians regarding the inner nature of the all as but the childish efforts of mortal minds to grasp the secret of the infinite. Such efforts have always failed and will always fail. From the very nature of the task, one pursuing such inquiries travels around and around in a labyrinth of thought until he is lost to all sane reasoning, action, or conduct, and is utterly unfit for the work of life. He is like the squirrel who frantically runs around and around the circled treadmill wheel of his cage, traveling ever and yet reaching nowhere. At the end, a prisoner still, and standing just where he started. So, it's amazing because this analogy that they use really encapsulates exactly how it feels to be a student under any one particular philosophy. It does feel like you're running a hamster wheel trying to quantify the all into some being outside of you. We can give a name to it. I'm not going to name any because I don't want to be exclusionary of any as well. Wherever you are, whatever it is that you believe, it can feel like you're running a hamster wheel, just trying to live under that philosophy with all of the questions that you have, because while each philosophy may be a path to view the all, it's just one aspect of looking at it, and it doesn't address the fact that the all essentially is change. The all essentially is life, imagination untamed, and there's always going to be holes because there's always going to be people who think differently, and reality is always going to reflect what we believe. And still more presumptuous are those who attempt to ascribe to the all the personality, qualities, properties, characteristics, and attributes of themselves, ascribing to the all the human emotions, feelings, and characteristics, even down to the pettiest qualities of mankind, such as jealousy, susceptibility to flattery and praise, desire for offerings and worship, and all the other survivals from the days of the childhood of the race. Such ideas are not worthy of grown men and women, and are rapidly being discarded. And then we have an interjection from the writer. At this point, it may be proper for me to state that we make a distinction between religion and theology, between philosophy and metaphysics. Religion to us means that institutional realization of the existence of the all and one's relationship to it, while theology means the attempts of men to ascribe personality, qualities, and characteristics to it. Their theories regarding its affairs, will, desires, plans, and designs, and their assumptions of the office of middlemen between the all and the people. Philosophy to us means the inquiry after knowledge of things knowable and thinkable, while metaphysics means the attempt to carry the inquiry over and beyond the boundaries into regions unknowable and unthinkable, and with the same tendency as that of theology, and consequently, both religion and philosophy mean to us things having roots in reality, while theology and metaphysics seem like broken reeds rooted in the quicksands of ignorance, and affording not but the most insecure support for the mind or soul of man. We do not insist upon our students accepting these definitions. We mention them merely to show our position. At any rate, you shall hear very little about theology or metaphysics in these lessons. I'll make sure you get the metaphysics in these lessons. There's where I disagree from hermeticists, I'll clearly state to you. I don't believe that metaphysics or theology is rooted in the quicksands of ignorance. I believe that theology has been helpful to an entire race of people who were vibrating at a certain frequency and needed that at that time. We didn't know better, so we did the best we knew, right? But now we can know better, so we can do better if we learn to discard an entire school of thought or a way of thinking that potentially provides assistance and an avenue for people to get to an understanding of themselves as it relates to the all. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As far as ascribing traits to the all that are characteristic of humans, when the Kybalion talks about ascribing personality, qualities, properties, characteristics, and attributes of ourselves or human emotions, feelings, characteristics to the all. Yeah, so whenever a person or the source manifests itself as a person who appears enlightened or having a certain amount of information, we deify them and make a religion after them. And in that religion, we, even if that person was a messenger claiming, hey, the message or the person who sent me is you or whatever, or all of you are God, it doesn't matter what their message is, we say this person is God. And sure, their father or there may be a broader God beyond them, but they're the emanation of that, and almost to the exclusion of you. And I don't claim that anything that exists is not God, because all that exists is God, because nothing exists outside of God. When we're talking about ascribing personality, I believe that it's easier to do that because of how we all have a natural inclination towards love from our earliest age. And because it seems like the all takes pleasure in rewarding us for helping each other, it only seems logical that we would ascribe other personality traits as well. But when we take a objective view at it, if the all is experiencing itself through us all, when you're helping someone out, you're helping yourself out, because we all are the all. Go back and watch that again. But while the essential nature of the all is unknowable, there are certain truths connected with this existence which the human mind finds itself compelled to accept. And an examination of these reports form a proper subject of inquiry, particularly as they agree with the reports of the illumined on higher planes. And to this inquiry, we now invite you. That which is the fundamental truth, the substantial reality, is beyond true naming, but the wise men call it the all, the Kybalion. In its essence, the all is unknowable, the Kybalion. But the report of reason must be hospitably received and treated with respect, the Kybalion. The human reason, whose reports we must accept so long as we think at all, informs us as follows regarding the all, and that without attempting to remove the veil of the unknowable. So here we're going to go into the logical discussion based on the level of thinking that we can do as humans to give us as close to an explanation of the all that we can all adhere to without basically shitting on anyone's religion, theology, philosophy, whatever. All right, so here we go. 1. The all must be all that really is. There can be nothing existing outside of the all, else the all would not be the all. So let's talk about that. If we are going to say that something is the all, it means that nothing can exist outside of it. So let's bring it down to a micro level, where we're talking about this battle between good and evil for these deities that we've created in thought. And we think of something like a devil, and we think of this devil as having power and operating outside of what? Because if a devil exists and has power outside of anything, that's impossible. That cannot be. It doesn't fit within logical reason. If the all is the all, whether or not there's a devil within, that devil has to be God, and it's just your judgment of certain activities that ascribe the title to the entity as devil. Let's go on to number 2. The all must be infinite, for there is nothing else to define, confine, bound, limit, or restrict the all. It must be infinite in time or eternal. It must have always continuously existed, for there is nothing else to have ever created it, and something can never evolve from nothing. And if it had ever not been, even for a moment, it would not be now. It must continuously exist forever, for there is nothing to destroy it, and it can never not be, even for a moment, because something can never become nothing. It must be infinite in space. It must be everywhere, for there is no place outside of the all. It cannot be otherwise than continuous in space, without break, secession, separation, or interruption, for there is nothing to break, separate, or interrupt its continuity, and nothing with which to fill in the gaps. It must be infinite in power or absolute, for there is nothing to limit, restrict, restrain, confine, disturb, or condition it. It must be subject to no other power, for there is no other power. Now, when we talk about the all being infinite, especially when it comes to the space that is, and how everything is continually in a state of expansion, it doesn't matter what religion that you present yourself to. You replace the name of their supreme God, you replace the all with the name of their supreme God, and you're describing what it is that at the core of it we believe our gods to be, separate from whatever personality characteristics that we may have ascribed due to a physical emanation or manifestation of them, or incarnation of them. But when we're talking about this person who sent all of these messengers that we've deified, when we're talking about that life presence, that consciousness that created you, that aligned events in such a way that your parents were to meet at a particular time, knowing from the moment that your parents were conceived that they'd meet and conceive you. That you can't, there's no better or no argument against that definition of, or this definition of infinity in relation to the all. If you've got an argument that works against it, by all means, drop that in the comments. Number 3, the all must be immutable, or not subject to change in its real nature, for there is nothing to work changes upon it. Nothing into which it could change, nor from which it could have changed. It cannot be added to, nor subtracted from, increased, nor diminished, nor become greater or lesser in any respect whatsoever. It must have always been and must always remain just what it is now, the all. There has never been, it is now, and never will be anything else into which it can change. Now, I love this because we all can agree, and all religions allude to, the consciousness that you are, not being mere matter, not being your body, not being the experiences that you have, not being the personality that is that surface level, the all in you sleeping. We talk about you having an indestructible, immortal soul. We talked about, religions will talk about being children of God and being born in the image of God, or a reflection of God. This indescribable soul. Replace the all with your soul, then you're describing what many religions attempt to talk about and add a lot of other stuff in. But stripping away the things to try to get you to be a certain way, the immutability of the all is really what gives you your greatest power. Because when you understand that the all is immutable, when you understand that there's nothing into which it could change, nothing into which nothing to work changes upon it, nor from which it could have changed, its nature stays the same, it makes religious texts make sense. And the one true God, if that being the all, separates or destroys all lies, all distortions. Any God that changes is not the all. Anything that diminishes is not the all. Any diminishment that you see is a distortion. It can't become greater or lesser in any respect whatsoever. So if the all is all that actually exists, and everything is an emanation of the all, we're not lesser than the all. You make up the all, or the all makes you up. But either way, there's power in that knowledge. The all being infinite, absolute, eternal, and unchangeable, it must follow that anything finite, changeable, fleeting, and conditioned cannot be the all. And as there is nothing outside of the all, in reality, then any and all such finite things must be as nothing in reality. Now, do not become befogged or nor frightened. We are not trying to lead you into the Christian Science field under the cover of hermetic philosophy. There is a reconciliation of this apparently contradictory state of affairs. Be patient, we'll reach it in time. We see around us that which is called matter, which forms the physical foundation for all forms. Is the all merely matter? Not at all. Matter cannot manifest life or mind, and as life and mind are manifested in the universe, the all cannot be matter. For nothing rises higher than its own source. Nothing is ever manifested in an effect that is not in the cause. Nothing is evolved as a consequent that is not involved as an antecedent. And then modern science informs us that there is really no such thing as matter. That what we call matter is really interrupted energy or force. That is energy or force at a low rate of vibration. As a recent writer has said, matter has melted into mystery. Even material science has abandoned the theory of matter and now rests on the basis of energy. Then is the all mere energy or force? Not energy or force as the materialists use the terms, for their energy and force is blind, mechanical things, devoid of life or mind. Life and mind can never evolve from blind energy or force, for the reason given a moment ago. Nothing can rise higher than its source. Nothing is evolved unless it is involved. Nothing manifests in the effect unless it is in the cause. And so the all cannot be mere energy or force. For if it were, then there would be no such things as life and mind in existence. And we know better than that, for we are alive and using mind to consider this very question. And so are those who claim that energy or force is everything. What is there then higher than matter or energy that we know to be existent in the universe? Life and mind. Life and mind in all their varying degrees of unfoldment. Then you ask, do you mean to tell us that the all is life and mind? Yes and no is our answer. If you mean life and mind as we poor petty mortals know them, we say no. The all is not that. But what kind of life and mind do you mean, you ask? The answer is living mind. As far above that which mortals know by those words. As life and mind are higher than mechanical forces or matter, infinite living mind as compared to finite life and mind, we mean that which the illumined souls mean when they reverently pronounce the word spirit. The all is infinite living mind. The illumined call it spirit. When you think about the models of the universe that directly, they look just like neurons firing in our brains, and the fact that it's just a fraction of a percentage in difference between our DNA and the DNA of pretty much any species on the planet, even plants, is the system and their DNA is just an inverse of ours. You see that this infinite living mind truly exists everywhere. The consciousness that it is exists everywhere. And you extrapolate that beyond just this statement, and you start to see that you can't just look at a rock as a rock. There's properties behind that rock. There's a consciousness to that rock. You can't just look at a plant as a plant. But that's essentially how we've been operating. And our philosophies, a lot of them don't take into account the fact that we live within an infinite living mind, in that the very act of thinking, the very act of setting an intent and belief towards it creates something for us to observe. We don't see that the patterns that exist all over are playing themselves out in a self-correcting nature, and that it's time for us to make what would be considered a quantum leap in terms of our intelligence and thinking. The all is responsible for all of the phenomena that you see. If we live within an infinite mind, and anything that we think can and will play itself out in some way, shape, or form, it makes you question things like fiction. I love Marvel. I firmly believe there's a Marvel universe, there's a reality where all of the events from Marvel takes place, all of the events from Star Wars takes place, because within this infinite living mind, nothing is impossible. Within this infinite living mind that is spirit, creativity is the blood that flows through all of us. And it's this school is about enhancing and sharpening our creativity. It's about understanding that yes, the all exists, we are part of it, we are one with the all. And as junior consciousnesses, we have all the creative power of the all. But if you look at something that is fleeting, and anything that you can see is fleeting, as we stated, everything is in some form of birth, growth, death. The moment something reaches its peak, it begins to decline. So these are all fleeting things. The thing that is not fleeting is your consciousness, is your awareness. Even this body, the time that you occupy this body, the time that you call yourself by a certain name, is fleeting. But your awareness of these events is not. So at any given moment, realize this now. You are in control of your mental state. Now, you can zoom in and turn your awareness into a microscope of the problems that you're dealing with. Or you can zoom out and realize that you are one with the infinite. And that there are an innumerable amount of ways that whatever it is that you're dealing with can be taken care of. But it starts with you using your power, or using it correctly, because either way you're using your power. It starts with becoming aware of the things that you're thinking about and the things that you're creating within this infinite living mind. There's tools and techniques to begin to prune the branches of the wild thoughts that you've had that have created the distortions that you see around you. We'll get to those. But for now, this is a great kicking off point, discussing the mind that we live in, because a lot of the concepts that I'll talk about from here are based on the assumption that you understand that we live within this infinite living mind that we can call spirit. We live within the all. Now, I'll call it God in some videos. I'll call it source. I may call it the all. I'll call it by a lot of different names, but that's what I'm referring to when I'm talking about you, that life presence that is you, that consciousness that is the real you, beyond the personality. And when we go back to the all, it's easy to, in the vastness of the all, it's easy to see how small whatever it is that you're dealing with is. And that's a great place to begin. It's a great place to take your awareness and magnify, so that you can begin to see beyond whatever it is that you are, whatever the hamster wheel that you're spinning on. All you got to do is start looking beyond it, and things will start presenting themselves for you to look at. That's all I got. I love you. I want to see the fullest expression of you. This is the spark.